How are you? You're Mohammed, yeah? Why? Good afternoon. My name is Lionel Johnson, and I am the Vice President for Middle East and North Africa Affairs at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and delighted to welcome you to this roundtable this afternoon. This discussion amongst representatives from two of the most influential private sector organizations operating today in Tunisia. We are delighted to once again be hosting a program related to this particular country. During the opening weeks of my own tenure here, we were pleased to have a delegation representing TAC. Today we are also very fortunate to have Ms. Rim Bedoy, who is the Secretary General of the Tunisian American Chamber of Commerce, which is now also chairing the Middle East and North Africa AmCham. So congratulations to Tunisia and to TAC. Rim is the founder and managing director of Agora International, which is a food production and ceramics company, and she's also a pioneer for women entrepreneurs in the Arab world and beyond. She's worked in New York City on an account team managing communications and public relations activities for companies such as Johnson & Johnson, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and the American Red Cross. In 1999, she returned to her native Tunisia and began her consulting business, Bedoy & Company Consulting, in Tunis. This company immediately entered the international business development realm by representing programs of the Business Development Office of the U.S. Agency for International Development and on Global Trade and Technology Network and the International Executive Service Corps. We're also very pleased to have a representative of the newest of our organizations working to support Tunisia's emergence in the global economy and business development, the founder of the Tunisian American Young Professionals Association, Mohamed Malouche. Mohamed has been working for 15 years in the United States as a telecommunications consultant with AMS and Deloitte, and is continuing his work in tourism and ICT to foster communication between Tunisia and the United States through TAYP and Promo Tunisia. He obtained his MBA from the INT French Business School in Paris and followed up with a master's at Michigan State University. We will have each of these two panelists brief us on the investment climate in today's Tunisia. We'll open it then for questions. But let me just say in conclusion that we are very honored to have you with us today. I'd like to thank you for gracing us with your presence, and to the Embassy of Tunisia for our continued cooperation, for all the work that we're doing to increase the trade and investment relations with the United States and Tunisia and all of our government entities. And it's a pleasure to have such able partners as yourself, Mr. Ambassador, and your team. So welcome to you all, and we look forward to your presentations.
Thank you. My name is Mohamed Malouche. I am with the Tunisian American Young Professional Associations. We are basically a nonprofit organization that aims at increasing cooperation, exchanges, and ties between Tunisia and the United States through discussions like this one, but also by being a resource to Tunisian entrepreneurs who want to do business with the United States, and also U.S. investors who are interested in considering Tunisia. We are also building a networking platform for Tunisian diaspora members here in the U.S. to basically help each other professionally. We are very fortunate to be here. Thank you for hosting us. We're very grateful for this event, and thank you all for your interest in Tunisia. My colleagues, Rim Bedoy, who's with the Tunisian American Chamber of Commerce, Hatim Salemi and Mariam Malouche, who are also members of TAYP, come to you today roughly 6 months into a historical revolution in Tunisia. And, we have all been, I think, living in the United States for a number of years. Most of us have been educated here in the US, so we are used to talking to our friends and colleagues about Tunisia. However, this time we come with very much a different feeling. The concepts, of democracy and freedom and liberty were exactly that, concepts. We certainly understood them, but we never felt them. And today, as Tunisian, we feel free. I feel free. Every Tunisian feels free. And this is a gift that we will cherish for the rest of our lives. So we wanted to talk to you today about the story of this new Tunisia. And certainly, we wanted to talk to you as well about opportunities that exist in Tunisia. But before we really talk about the opportunities that exist in Tunisia, we also wanted to sort of say a few words about the challenges that we are experiencing. Obviously, going from a dictatorship, to a democracy is no easy task. There's a lot of work and a lot of challenges ahead of us. Most notably, there has been security challenges in Tunisia that I think are very much on their way to be resolved. I would say that 99% of our security issues are probably resolved in Tunisia. We have tourists back, we have investors back in Tunisia. We also have social challenges that are very important because people really want justice, after so many years of constraints. And they want justice now. They want, better jobs. They want better salaries, and we have to obviously deal, with the situation. And the government is trying to manage expectations as much as they can. We have economic challenges. The economic growth of Tunisia this year is not really looking great. There has been a number of sectors that have been deeply affected. And so this year is obviously going to be a transition year and is going to be a tough year for us. And then finally, we do have also political challenges. And the challenges on the political side are really trying to sort of form this new concept of our own democracy. And there's going to be election pretty soon here for a constituent assembly on October 23rd, which will start basically that political process. So I think what's important to recognize here with all these challenges is that these are challenges to be expected, that we need to recognize that they exist, but really the focus of us and of the Tunisian American Chamber of Commerce is also on the medium and the longer run. What's going on there in Tunisia? What is the potential of Tunisia in the medium and long run? So we wanted to talk about you about opportunities. And obviously a change of this magnitude represents a tremendous opportunity, not only for Tunisians, but also for the United States and also for US investor, because this could be the opportunity to invest in the first democracy in the Arab world. And this opportunity only comes perhaps once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime. So really the three pillars that we wanted to talk to you about are around, and perhaps it's a bit difficult to see, but one of the pillars that we think is important to consider is the fact that Tunisia is a strategic country in a strategic part of the world. We are fortunate to have made it to the National Security Council list of priority. We have made it as well to the European Union list of priority, and that is very, very important. So we want to talk to you about that. We also want to talk to you about the solid fundamentals that we are building upon in Tunisia. Tunisia, we are not starting from scratch. There's a lot of things that have been accomplished in Tunisia thanks to our solid institution, thanks to our technocrats, thanks to our vibrant private sector, that we want to share with you. And then finally, there's this notion of an emerging hub for the region, basically a platform from which any investor could launch their operations into sort of the regional area, such as, Africa and Europe and the Middle East. So those are the three concepts that we'd like to develop during this presentation, and want to also hear your feedback about. So the first concept, let me start with geography, and obviously, Tunisia is pretty centrally located in the world. Charles de Gaulle used to say, on peut ignorer l'histoire mais pas la géographie. We can ignore history but not geography. And obviously, geography is a critical thing for a number of reasons. First of all, you have access to, markets that are nearby. You have access to European hubs. You have access to the African markets, which is, going to be a high-growth market. And you have access to the Middle East as well. The other component that's very important is the languages component. Tunisian speaks fluently Arabic and French. A number of Tunisians also speak Italian because of the geographical proximity. And then English is becoming an increasing priority. It's been amazing to see the changes in the past 5 years about how Tunisians, have improved their English and have come to realize that this is the language of international business and that it needed to be acquired. So that's extremely important, and actually TAYP has been very instrumental in helping with that. The second component of being a strategic country has to do with history. So we'll disagree for a little second here with the French and talk about the history, because the history of Tunisia and the types of things that it was able to accomplish in the past 100 years are really a testimony of its capacity, to change things and to be a vibrant society. So Tunisia has been the first Arab country to establish a constitution in 1861. The first Arab country as well to give equal rights to women in 1956, which we believe is still an unparalleled achievement in that region of the world, and the first country in 2011 to overthrow a dictator. And this is, to us, a testimony that, again, this is a vibrant society. This is a society that embraces change, that is able to, in fact, drive change. And, one of the comparisons that comes to mind is with the technology world. When we think about Tunisia, I personally think about Apple. We may not have invented the iPad or the iPod or the Mac, but we are serial innovators. We may not be the Microsofts or the Googles of the region, sort of the big powerhouse there, but we certainly have shown a capacity to change, to embrace change, and to innovate, and really be able to display leadership in that region. So that is sort of one component that's extremely important as well, and that we feel would be useful to anybody who's considering Tunisia as a potential investment destination. Now let's talk about the fundamentals. And I'm not going to go through, obviously, the excruciating details here, but Tunisia has a diversified economy. In fact, that may be the reason why it's able to stand on its feet today, because it has that diversified economy. We have no natural resources, no oil, no gas, which is actually perhaps a blessing in that region of the world. But we are obviously counting on our human resources, and the fact that we have a diversified economy has been very, very favorable in crisis period, in crisis times such as this time. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe, there was a statement by our central bank governor, Mustafa Nebli, who used to work here at the World Bank, who said that the worst was behind us as far as economy, which is certainly an encouraging sign. The other factor is the fact that our country has been open for and to business for a number of years. And here we listed a set of international rankings. Funny enough that it was used by the old regime to sort of be a propaganda tool, but this is not why we're displaying this. We're displaying this because we feel that no matter how you measure these things, there must be some sort of truth in this somewhere that in fact puts us ahead of a number of our natural competitors in the region. And when you look at Tunisia being ranked 55 in the Ease of Doing Business Index, ahead of 5 European Union countries, that basically, says that there must be something that's being done right in there. Similarly, number 32, in the Global Competitiveness Index, which puts us ahead, of our natural geographical competitors. And really, what we see ahead is that there's no reason why we would fall behind in these indicators, because now the revolution is behind us. We've already sort of made it on the other side. In education is probably, something that we need to reiterate on and on, because I think that's truly one of the key differentiator of Tunisia. Tunisia is the most educated Arab and African nation. It has 81% literacy rate, 96% of children go to school in Tunisia, and Tunisia has reached level of education that are comparable to that of the OECD countries since 1992. We are also ranked first in terms of availability of engineers and scientists in Africa. And what this means is really the availability of employable skills, at obviously reasonable costs. So I think by looking at these figures, the important point to remember, however, and I think what came out of the revolution is the motivation of our youth to change things. There's a tremendous amount of energy now in Tunisia. And, I attended a couple of weeks ago the investment forum of Carthage in Tunisia. And one of the investors who came to the podium said that, when they were comparing various destinations, that what they liked about Tunisian engineers and Tunisian developers was that capacity to challenge certain things, that capacity to be creative, to have a natural sense of curiosity, to be able, to really add value. And sort of looking into that seemed to me like, a differentiator that's above and beyond these numbers that indicates that Tunisia is well educated. It's really that makes the difference. Now, one of the things that we're most proud of is our Tunisian women. When you have 50% of your population helping, that certainly helps tremendously, and they are an important asset, in terms of rebuilding our country's economy. And you have testimonies here around the room and the podium of successful Tunisian women CEOs, economists, etc. And so we think that this is a fundamental thing, sort of a critical success factor at the end of the day that would enable us to, emerge even stronger out of this crisis that we're currently experiencing. Solid institution and a modern infrastructure. 1 week into our revolution, I believe the government was back in business 1 week after. The schools and universities were back in business 1 week after the revolution. The stock market was back 1 week after the revolution. And frankly, that is a testimony of solid institution, of institutions that really have been able to carry the country. Infrastructure is very important as well, in the sense that, people are really now looking at infrastructure as being a more important factor than even labor costs. And so if you look around Tunis, if hopefully you'll have if you haven't visited, you'll have an opportunity to visit. The quality of constructions, the quality of business buildings has tremendously improved in the past 5 years. And there's a tremendous effort in terms of building sort of the roads infrastructure, the broadband infrastructure, That's actually, I think, about 50% of the budget that Tunisia has asked from G8 countries. The $25 billion that they've asked for over a period of 5 years was really to be dedicated to improving an already competitive infrastructure in the region. And then finally, talking about incentives, and Hatim will give, real life examples of that. The incentives that the Tunisian government provides to, corporations, foreign corporations, are very, very competitive in terms of, taxations, in terms of training costs that are assumed by the state. And that should be looked, obviously, into details, and, we'll be happy to give you the details of the record here. But if you combine that with the willingness and the ability of the U.S. government to support U.S. investor interested in Tunisia, the U.S. government, through a number of agencies, is actually making a lot of efforts in supporting this transition for Tunisia. OPIC, for example, has a $2.6 billion, loan guarantee fund that's, for the MENA region, but in particular for Tunisia. That, you have basically two governments that are really creating an environment that is actually favorable for investment. I will not discount the fact that we welcome 7 million tourists a year in Tunisia, and that we have been a country that's been open, progressive, for both tourists and investors, and we've been welcoming, these tourists and these investors in Tunisia. I would say for almost 3,000 years, since the Carthaginian, and then the Romans, etc. And then also a great place to live. Tunisia, is a very modern, Europeanized country. Some of you may give some, testimonies, but a friend of mine who came to Tunisia recently said, it very much looked like Europe. And frankly, the thing is that when you look at schools, the French schools, the American schools, the Tunisian schools, you look at the health sector, etc., which is being used, in fact, by foreigners, even people coming from England to get medical treatments in Tunisia. It really is a testimony of, a country that's really on the move. So these are sort of the fundamentals that we wanted to talk about, but we left for sort of the end here probably the most important fundamental, which is what is basically this Jasmine Revolution bringing to the country that makes it truly different. And what it brings is this increased transparency and rule of law. And we wanted to give you specific examples because all of this is very theoretical. When we talk about transparency, it takes years to install transparency. Corruption exists everywhere, and it will continue to exist. But let me give you just a few examples of why Tunisia has quickly moved into a very much a transparent, way of doing business. In February, so right after the revolution, there was a national declaration of war against big and small corruption by the government. Banks, for the first time, have started disclosing their bad assets. Have never happened in Tunisia before. The World Bank has actually announced that for the first time in its history, the government is sharing via their portals information and statistics that they've never shared in the past. So, all these final reports that sometimes have cooked information, those are basically not going to be possible because you have the raw data behind it, and every economic analyst could basically go and do their own analysis and come up with their own results. The World Bank and other international institutions are actually assisting with governance, with transparency, with establishment of KPIs. All of these, will obviously, pave the way for proper governance in Tunisia. And the most important aspect to me is really the civil society and the NGOs that are for the first time on the ground in Tunisia, because those folks are the ones who are challenging, everything that's happening. They have the capacity to scrutinize, and they have the capacity to basically alert the public opinion when things are not going right. And to me, that is definitely one of the strongest guarantee of future transparency. So those to us are the strong fundamentals of Tunisia, and I'm going to cover just the last aspect, which is the emerging hub aspect, because it's a very important aspect and was actually the theme of this investment conference in Carthage a few weeks ago. Tunisia has the prerequisite to become this platform for expansion into the Middle East and North Africa and Europe. It has the necessary trade agreement with Europe, with a lot of its neighboring countries. It's going to be one of the priority of the next government also to work on a full free trade agreement with the United States. We have, TIFA agreement and bilateral agreements, but not an FTA at this point. And the recurring theme of the conference was truly sort of this positioning of Tunisia as the Switzerland of Africa, the Singapore of the MENA region, where, Tunisia could be used as really that expansion platform. And one of the examples that were given, and I've listed here sort of some of the global multinationals that are already in Tunisia. One of the examples that was given was an American company. It's an IT company. It's called SunGard. Their testimony was, I thought, very, very interesting, and I'll share it with you here. They were trying to assess basically the impact of the revolution on their operation. And the impact of the revolution was basically that their lease line, so all their broadband circuits, were 100% operational. They lost 0.8 days overall. Their 400 employees were not in the office for 2 weeks, but they worked remotely. And their employee agreed to work on the weekend of January 21st, so the week right after the revolution, in order to make up some of the lost time. And to me, when I heard that, it just struck me that this was perhaps the biggest differentiator of Tunisia, this commitment to delivery, this commitment to service level agreement, this commitment to deadlines, which is really above and beyond, all the strong fundamentals we just talked about. And that was, I think, one of the most compelling reason that encouraged me to, in fact, again, contact U.S. companies and give them the example of SunGard. So they went ahead and said a couple of other things. They had 3 global delivery centers in India, and they felt that they didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket. So, there's high turnover and increasing costs in India, obviously. So they did their due diligence, and they considered the region, and ended up choosing Tunisia as their hub for this new region they called the Mediterranean Africa. So there's really no Sahara separation. It's all the Mediterranean Africa was basically covered by Tunisia because they saw Tunisia as sort of this relay between Europe and Africa. And so that comes back to sort of the point of being a hub and being a platform for the future. And Hatim Salemi, whose company you see there in the middle, Predictix, will give as well his testimony here in a few minutes. But let me conclude really quick and tell you sort of our slogan of the day here. Our slogan of the day is NTTL, no time to lose. We feel that, as investors, that stability is a very important factor, but that timing is also an equally important factor. And we very much realize that Tunisia has a number of things to work on in the next few years. We are working on, every ministry right now is working on the regulatory frameworks. There are laws, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them have not been enforced, frankly. There are a number of governance aspects, free trade agreements, a number of things that we are working on right now. But the point here is, if you wait until the situation is completely clear, then you may actually lose, that first mover advantage, that opportunity to really get there first, and get the highest return on investment. And that's our point. Our point is really timing. Timing is key. And we believe that, this is really not an uncalculated risk. This is an educated risk because Tunisia has both the history and the capabilities to be successful. And we truly believe that it can be successful as well for you and with your support as well. So we encourage you to come and visit Tunisia and see for yourself if, this infrastructure talk and this hospitability talk is truly, there. And so that's our message really, is to come visit and come try it out. So without any further ado, I am going to pass it to my friend and colleague Hatim Salemi to actually say a few words about his own experience with Predictix, and then we'll move on to Reem and then on to Q&A.
Good afternoon. So my name is Hatim Salemi. I am a founding member of the Tunisian American Young Professionals Association. We founded together with Mohammed and Mariam. I am also the co-founder of Predictix. And Predictix is a US software company that was started in 2005. And we are focused on providing analytical and predictive decision support solutions for the retail industry. We work with most of the top retailers in the world. As you can see, even despite the fact that we've been in business for only 6 years, we have quite a list of retailers in the US and the rest of the world. These are all very big, large retailers. We are not a big company in terms of revenues. This year we will probably be making around $20 million in revenue, but we have been growing steadily. It has been a self-funded company. It's not VC-backed or anything. So we started delivering services and software solutions to our clients from the early days. So from the beginning, we wanted to look for options for us to and offshore solutions for us. Most software companies, as you know, they would go to India or to China or to the Philippines for offshore, lower cost options for development. We wanted to go to Tunisia, so we investigated what the country has to offer, and we found a few things that the Tunisia offered to us that were very attractive. And being analytical as we are, and our solutions are analytical solutions, so these are some of the numbers that attracted us. So we start with the first one, 1/3. 1/3 is the cost of a Tunisian employee as compared to US equivalent. So it cost us to hire an engineer in Tunisia, it cost us about 1/3 the cost it would to hire somebody here. So obviously that is really, really, really important for us. Okay? 0% also was very attractive to us, and that is 0% tax, corporate tax for 10 years. And that is very, very, very important for us. For all companies that are offshore companies, such as ours, all the work we do is to service customers outside of Tunisia. We don't pay taxes for 10 years, which was very attractive. Close to zero, roughly zero, this is the competition for talent. So, as I said, most American companies would go to India and China. There are a few European countries in Tunisia, mostly French-speaking countries, French-speaking companies that come to Tunisia and invest in Tunisia. But being an American company and doing business in English with these top retailers, we were very, very attractive for top talent. So it was very good for us to compete for all those top engineers and top IT professionals. First, we have access to first-class skills. The education program in engineering and IT is really second to none in the region. We have access to top talent. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of anecdotal situations with our colleagues when we first started hiring the Tunisians, and they would come to our office in Atlanta, and people are just amazed how much they know. And to the point that Mohammed made earlier, they have that drive to challenge, to be curious. They don't just take the specs and just develop them as normally offshore centers would do. They will question, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do it this way? It's better to do it this way. They have that inquisitive and curious and challenging mentality that adds value to what we do. Okay? 3+. That's the number of languages most people speak in Tunisia. As Mohammed said earlier, everybody speaks Arabic, Tunisian, everybody speaks French, a lot of the people speak English, and some speak German, some speak Italian as well. So that was very attractive for us, given that our customers, they're all over the world, and there is a need for different languages. That's very, very useful, especially for our European customers. And last but not least is 1, 2, 3, and that's the time it takes to travel to the European capitals where our customers are. So it's 1-hour flight to Rome, it's 2-hour flight to Paris, and 3-hour flight to London. That is significantly better than sending somebody from here in the US to our customers in Europe, for example. So these are the things that really attracted us as a small company looking to be creative. We were creative with our software, with our solutions. We wanted to be creative in our offshoring solution as well. So I want to share with you a few lessons learned from our experience so far. So it is very, very important to have, in addition to the technical training that we give our employees in Tunisia, to give them a cultural training as well. So the culture in Tunisia is very different from the culture here. I personally experienced it myself, but I did that when I was in school here. But for our young employees, first thing we do when they are hired in Tunisia, they come to the US, they spend a month or two to be immersed in the culture and be working with their American colleagues here. And that is proved to be very, very, very valuable for us. The other lesson is the country manager. It is very important to have a country manager who is familiar with both cultures. So somebody who has worked in Tunisia, knows the Tunisian way of doing business, knows the rules and regulations, and at the same time is knowledgeable of the American side of things. So that helped us tremendously. And then we had to do some training for our own HR and finance people here in the US. Many of them don't have a lot of international experience, and certainly not experience working in Tunisia. So we made sure that we gave them the necessary training on the employment laws and the financial reporting and accounting and so on. Finally, the last lesson we learned is to hire from the top universities around the world. So we did not just focus on the talent in Tunisia. We also did a lot of advertising in European and American universities when we know there are Tunisians there. And then we go through student associations and so on and participate and show them Tunisia. And most of those Tunisians who go to school in those countries, they want to go back to Tunisia, and when they know us and they know about what we're doing and the prospect of working with us, many of them actually get hired before they even move back to Tunisia. And those are Western educated people, and they are very valuable for us as employees. So I just wanted to share with you our experience as a young company. And I hope that you found it interesting and useful in case there are people who are interested in going to Tunisia to invest the same way we did. Now, I think Thank you. and now Reem Bedoui, the Secretary General of Tunisian American Chamber of Commerce.
Bonsoir, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you here. Know that you came to hear about Tunisia and about our country. My name is Reem Bedoui Ayari. I'm the new elected Secretary General. Our board has been elected in May 2011. I guess the TAYP Association has introduced the Tunisian investment sector, so I will talk a little bit about numbers. Back in 2010, we conducted a survey with the U.S. companies members of TAC. Actually, 76% of the U.S. companies present in Tunisia answered the survey. 100% of them thought Tunisia was a safe place. 96.2% stated that it was a good decision to invest in Tunisia, and 92% would recommend investing in Tunisia. So those are the numbers we're working with. Just to give you a little bit of our position about the Tunisian U.S. business, we believe there is a very strong potential for U.S. companies to do business in Tunisia. We believe more so after our revolution because of all the opportunities that may end up coming through the region, either through Libya or the new Libya that will, that is to come, or to Tunisia with probably, and that's something we've asked after the revolution, our Minister of Finance, our Prime Minister at the G8 in Deauville, asked to restart the discussion about the free trade agreement, which we don't have right now. But we are definitively open to do more business with U.S. companies. The Tunisian American Chamber of Commerce has existed for the past 23 years. As Mr. Johnson mentioned, we are heading this year, as of July of this year, the U.S. AmChams in the region. We will be working on regional events to foster U.S. businesses in the region. For Tunisia, we have only 70-something U.S. companies investing in our country compared to about 1,700 French companies. So the U.S. business relationship with Tunisia has still a lot of potential to grow. We have one of our mission, our goal at the Chamber is to help U.S. companies either in terms of lobbying, infrastructure, finding the right resources, helping them do their business if they have issues with the regulation and all these things that they may have to face when they come to a new country. What we would like to see is more U.S. business coming now and supporting the revolution by fostering the private sector and creating more jobs. We know there is only a transitional government, but this government and the next government are ready to help and support the private sector. That's the message, and that's a very, very important message for us. So be part of the change. Thank you.
So I think we're just gonna open it up for questions. If you can just kindly state who you're affiliated with, and we'll take it from there.
I'm Dan O'Flaherty with the National Foreign Trade Council here in Washington. Mr. Malouche, I wonder if you could tell us more about the networking company or activity that your introduction mentioned that you undertake.
Sure. So yeah, as I said, I think one of the main goals that we have is to really diasporize the Tunisian, I don't know if that's a word, but diasporize the Tunisian, community here in the U.S. who perhaps in the past was a bit reluctant to, form alliances because they may have, it may have been, used for political purposes, etc. So the way we're going after this is really reaching out to our networks of Tunisian who went to school in the United States and who are, at the end of the day, the best ambassadors of the United States in Tunisia. So whether they live in Tunisia or whether they still live in the United States, it's very much sort of a networking, exercise. And our goal at the end of the day is to really have a pool of experts in various fields so that when a U.S. investor said, in solar energy, wants to know more about the sector in Tunisia, wants to know more about the opportunities, then we can pair him up and sort of indicate that we have a couple of experts in that particular field that, can basically help them and support them.
Good afternoon. Rob Colorino with AIAC Investments. I've been fascinated by Tunisia for some time. I've been in Africa for over the last year. A couple of questions, and I think I mentioned this to Lionel in a previous exchange. If you all, and particularly from the policy side, but from the business side, can give flavor as to the connectivity between Tunisia to the Middle East, as well as with respect to sub-Saharan Africa, I think there's greater opportunity, but there seems that big desert seems to separate a lot between the two. And then just secondly, related, the aspects of the female involvement. I'm very impressed by that. To what extent is that acceptable amongst particularly other Arab regions?
So the first part of your question was the role of Tunisia in the region and the acceptance. Well, many Tunisian companies, many U.S. or foreign companies based in Tunisia cover the Middle East as well. So there is really the region is one and the same, knowing that there is probably for North Africa a tendency to be extremely attracted by the Middle East market. So there is no problem, doing business. There are direct flights, several flights a week to Dubai, Qatar, Kuwait. In fact, our Prime Minister was in this region last week, I believe so. And there is a very strong relationship with these countries, the Gulf countries, supporting also our revolution. Now, regarding the woman position in the society, well, we are everywhere. From the this goes back to our leader Habib Bourguiba back in the 50s, where the family code was instituted, and it's we're very flexible. We're Arabs, we're Muslim, we're very proud of our identity. However, we are moving with the century and with the modern society. I do not believe any one of the foreign investors was ever bothered by the Tunisian way of living, being conservative in some ways and very open to the international world. But that's Tunisian since the early centuries. Open to trade, open to new cultures.
I would like to add the question about the Sahara and the sub-Sahara countries. And it is true, historically, we haven't done a lot of business out of Tunisia to cover the rest of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. But I think that's a huge opportunity for us going forward. And it's already over the last few years, there are more and more companies, Tunisian companies that are doing a lot of business, and primarily in the infrastructure business, roads and telecom and a lot of things like that, where you see more and more people going into those countries. I know for us, Predictix as a company, in fact, we do have clients in South Africa, and we do send people from Tunisia to South Africa. At least they're in the same time zone. So.
Louis Cohen, trade consultant here in town, ex-Peace Corps volunteer during the 60s. And I think that was a very exciting time as well. Unfortunately, it ran out of gas before it could achieve everything it needed to achieve. But here you are. And I think a panel such as yours, and let me also say I was in the embassy, the American embassy, as economic commercial counselor in the 80s, at the end of Bourguiba, the beginning of Ben Ali, very tough time. And a panel such as yours couldn't have existed then. People such as you were just, a gleam in some eyes, some of your parents' eyes, I think. But it's very encouraging now. I'm very excited about what's happening and what's going to happen. I'm going in a couple of weeks, first time in 15 years. I haven't had the time or the opportunity to go, but I'm very much looking forward to reconnecting with some old friends. But I think what you're doing here is absolutely fantastic. And I think you're going to succeed brilliantly because, as you say, everything is in place now. And it's your generation, finally, that's going to do it. And I'm looking forward to helping in any way I can. So I just wanted to say that.
Yes. Can you hear me without the microphone? Yes. My name is Keith. I'm with the it's a publishing company. My question was sort of a follow-up to the question that was asked a couple of days ago. Do you see a scenario where Tunisia could be the catalyst for economic growth in sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, I haven't had the chance to talk. I'm Mariam Malouche. I'm economist at the World Bank. I do work on the MENA region, economic integration. And what I wanted to say actually to the first question was there was a big gap between the political commitment to strengthen the integration within MENA and the private sector really interest in Africa and MENA. There is much more happening at the private sector level within the region, despite political tension between Morocco, Algeria, Libya and Egypt. Things are happening. Same thing with the Africa, especially West Africa, the Francophone Africa. There are a lot of business in IT, infrastructure, all the services business. There is also textile and agriculture, where North Africa is becoming a little bit more expensive than, for example, compared to Spain. They have dedicated to Morocco and Tunisia, and now Tunisians are going to Senegal and Mali to invest there. So definitely Tunisia is seen as a model. I was a few months ago to Senegal, and they are looking at us like the big heroes, and they really want to strengthen the ties with Tunisia, and they see us as a role model economically, socially, and so we think, yes, Tunisia can really lead the growth, the economic development of not only the Maghreb and Mashreq, but also the African continent.
I think I can dispense with that. My name is Robert Morrow. I'm with a company called Plank here. We do strategic growth advisory services. We focused a lot on essentially promoting investment. A lot of American companies, French companies, and other American companies. Can you also address a little bit what's the current atmosphere for entrepreneurs and for small and medium-sized businesses? Is there a rising spirit of entrepreneurship? Is there a growing class of entrepreneurs and homegrown businesses that are going to help maybe in the future? They can provide sort of supply chain opportunities to work with these larger companies to make investors.
So I think a couple of things. One thing is our focus, frankly, is very much on the small and medium enterprise, because we truly believe that a large corporation, whether it's U.S. or any other nationality, will typically go through its subsidiaries in Europe to really try to see if there are opportunities for offshoring and outsourcing in Tunisia. So our focus is on SMEs here in the United States. Now, relative to the Tunisian entrepreneurs themselves, we're seeing an amazing, I'd say, set of ideas. People are sort of trying to, it's truly a testimony of a country on the move when you see some of the projects that are coming out of, business competitions that are locally organized. And in fact, the U.S. State Department is actually very active in trying to foster those kinds of things, business competition, etc. Where I think our association and TAC can be tremendously helpful is to really try to structure a little bit more of these thoughts, because what we've seen is that while the Tunisian entrepreneurs have great idea, it's not enough to have a great idea to succeed. You have to have processes, you have to have really, be able to, build a business plan. You have to be able to sell it essentially to the U.S. in the way the U.S. does business. And so we have been trying to basically structure people's thoughts, tell them, highlights and outline really, what's there perhaps for a U.S. technology transfer. And so that our role has been, very active in that aspect. But to really answer your question, there's a tremendous sense of energy right now with young Tunisian entrepreneurs, and we're getting, proposals after proposals, frankly, every day. So.
I just would like to add a few practical things. One of the positive points about Tunisia and what has been built over the past 50 years is a very educated workforce. Now, unfortunately, all these graduated students cannot go to the workplace and find a job. So for the past 10 years, there was a very strong policy of encouraging entrepreneurs. I'm one of them. I've had bank loans, and we have two types of banks that specialize in microcredit and small an SBA type of institution. So there is a very, I would say, strong willingness in the country to foster the entrepreneurship. The young population is aware that they need to start their own business, that it's not trendy anymore, or it's not feasible anymore to work for the government or to have a secured employment. So yes, there are ideas over there. There is energy, and with now I would say the new frame work for policy and economic growth, there would be more successful entrepreneurs. I do believe so.
Yeah, I'd like to add two facts on the policy changes that might really support the development of the SMEs. Is first the business association. In Tunisia, there was some freedom for association, but not really for the business sector, where they had some constraint in the fees for businesses. So actually they could not achieve a lot, and that was a big constraint for SMEs, because when they're too small, they cannot really have benefit from knowledge and technology spillover among themselves. So being able to organize a business association will really help strengthen the SMEs sector. The other policy trend that would support that is the international experience shows that the government as a client is a good catalyst for SMEs, because especially for the IT services, starting to work with the government, you build expertise, and then you build really credibility with the foreign companies. While in the previous Tunisia, the government contracts were not given in a transparent way. They were not really supportive of the SMEs. So there was really a lack of difficulty for the SMEs to build good reputation. So hopefully with these changes, it will be easier for SMEs to have better work.
As a follow-up question, so chapter predictors, are you able to find subcontractors, suppliers, other people that you do business with, small SMEs in Tunisia to meet your own needs?
Yes, absolutely. For all the services, telecom services, internet services, and all that, we have very, very good partners that are small partners. In Tunisia, they've been very, very helpful, very useful. And even in terms of part-time consultants or people who will help expand our capacity to develop when we have big projects and we need to hire people for a period of time, there are lots of small companies that offer such services that we have partnered with.
Hi, I'm Indra Klein. I'm with the Family Voices for DC. We're a small NGO in the district. I have two questions. With the upcoming election in October, does the country currently have a national policy with regard to industry and what your projections are going to be? And secondly, what is the projection for that election outcome? With regard to NGOs, what is the ratio with regard to disparity? I hear you talking about the best and the brightest, but what is being done for the average person? If an NGO were to come in, and let's say funding through the Soros Foundation and so forth, are there enough networks on the ground in Tunisia to allow for that expansion?
Okay, so as far as whether I think you can find people on the ground to support NGOs or to work with NGOs, I haven't seen, I think, in recent memories, the number of associations that formed in Tunisia are by the thousands. We are, I think, up to 94 political parties. The amount of energy that you see there is absolutely tremendous, and I don't think you'll have any difficulty finding motivated partners and partners who are willing, to work with you. As far as the election projection, there's, obviously, 94 political parties. There are political forces that are, I would say, lacking a little bit of structure, perhaps lacking also a bit of strategy and a bit of agendas and economic agendas. It seems like there's a lot of copy paste, from party to party. There are a few main parties, and they are, I would say, to this point, and perhaps others may disagree with me, but the reliability of the polls is questionable. I think the system, there are polls in there, but we just don't understand whether they are reliable or whether they are really reflective of the truth. They seem to fluctuate from week to week, but there's basically a few main political parties and a lot of other smaller parties. So it's very difficult to predict. The other point that I wanted to make is that the upcoming elections are not presidential or legislative election. They are elections for a constituent assembly that is going not only to govern but also to write a new constitution. So, the Tunisian model differs a little bit from, our Egyptian friends. For example, we are rewriting basically the constitution, and so that constituent assembly is going to name a president and a prime minister at that point in time. Address the convertibility of the dinar?
Convertibility, I just can say that it was on the agenda with the World Bank and IMF for years. It was not something, it was promised for 2014 by the previous government, but definitely not something they were really excited to do it, but it's a long-term thing. And I don't think now it's a priority given all the turbulence and the economic environment. But I see that we will do it anyway. In any case, especially with this Mustafa Nebli as a governor of the central bank, I'm sure he will make everything possible, but when the conditions are more appropriate, I guess.
So as far as the U.S. sanctions on Libya and its impact on Tunisia, I'm just I don't think, frankly, there's been, negative aspects of, sort of towards Tunisia, at least not that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure if these two events are linked or not. Perhaps they are. I'm not sure, but the U.S. has been supportive, definitely for Libya. The Libya situation is really a disaster and a big issue, I think down the line, as I said, I think just the same message as the presentation. While we know that there are challenges and there are loss of lives right now in Libya, down the line, I think when one looks at sort of the medium term, Libya becomes a tremendous opportunity, in fact, for Tunisia, because in Libya, and for all of you, this is valid. In Libya, there's literally everything needs to be done, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a regulation standpoint, from everything really needs to be done. And I think, again, this could constitute, I think, down the line, a tremendous opportunity. Perhaps we'll take just the last question. I don't know.
Does this answer a question about your brother-in-law? Okay. Because you were thinking, and I didn't know if it was positive thinking or not.
Thank you. Hassin Hedda from World Bank, Finance Officer. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a Tunisia portfolio. Great initiative. Thanks to all. One thing I want you to emphasize about, which you mentioned, but I want you to give more details about good governance and transparency.
We're the Institut Arabe des Chefs d'Entreprise. We're a think tank organization in Tunis. We've started the good governance practices back in 2003. TAC has also been part of it. So the private sector, even under the previous regime, has done a lot to ensure that we were meeting international standards to encourage the investment. As Mohamed Malouch specified, we will be working on the public sector as of these coming months, but the private sector, I guess, is meeting the international standards. We had a lot of training. We had funding from TAYP, which is an organization based in DC. We are working a lot with the International Accounting Association. So there are a lot of publications and seminars in Tunisia. So for the private sector, I do not think that there is a real issue. At least with the big companies, we're not talking about the family-owned, smaller companies. That may be a different set of process. However, it is the ethical side of it has really grown as a concern in Tunisia for the past 10 years. And I am one of the people who started working on corporate governance under TAYP funding and TAYP involvement. So I am very much familiar with the topic. Again, public sector is coming. The administration will not be the same in the future. For the good. I mean, some things were already very positive, and I guess we're going to even more positive evolution.
Maybe the last two questions.
Thank you. My name is Marlene Davis. I'm with Motorola Solutions, and we are a global company, and we look at places where we would invest maybe on a regional level. It would be very helpful for global companies to understand why Tunisia. The Egyptians are coming with the same story. The Moroccans are coming with the same story. So if you could maybe in your presentations emphasize why Tunisia, smaller government, and therefore decisions are made quicker. Transparency has been in place in the private sector for 10 years. If you could specify for global companies that you are courting, why Tunisia, not Morocco and Egypt? So it would be helpful to, actually mention these specific items that differentiate Tunisia from Egypt and Morocco in the same region.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think that's very valuable feedback, and in fact, we recognize that, frankly, there are strengths and weaknesses in all three countries. We believe that we're perhaps better equipped in terms of research and development. We're better equipped in terms of the higher education of our people. But there are strengths and weaknesses, everywhere. One of the indicators is really to look also at these international rankings, whether, as I said, there are indicators that are somewhat neutral. And Tunisia has been consistently first in those indicators relative to the countries that you just cited, Morocco and Egypt. Now, I think the main point we're trying to communicate, and I think this is what's important, is that Tunisia is right now a country on the move. We acknowledge that we have, things that we need to work on, but I think the degree of motivation that exists in the country right now makes me personally believe, and makes us Tunisian personally believe, that we'll be able to bridge those gaps very quickly, much more quicker than perhaps other countries who will look. So we're very much looking at the sort of an exponential, way of sort of resolving our gap. I'll give you a couple of examples of these things. The biggest ICT, so you are in the ICT domain, the biggest ICT company in Tunisia, Telnet, did a successful introduction in the stock markets 3 months after the revolution. What country can claim this? 3 countries into a revolution, the biggest IT company successful, entry. We have had about 500 plus investors come to Tunisia after the revolution in the past 6 months here. And I think, those are sort of examples of how fast things are moving. And that's sort of our message here, is to really say, time is of essence, NTTL, no time to lose. We feel that, Tunisia is very much equipped, to achieve this. Just like, 22 years ago, the Berlin Wall fell, and U.S. investors and U.S. government went to help Eastern European countries and to basically, get rid of communism. The same applies here in Tunisia. This wall of corruption and of indignity has fallen on January 14, 2011. We think that we are not only best positioned, but we are seeking basically the support of U.S. investors, because we think that it's to their benefit and to our benefit to invest right now.
I would like to add, if you may allow me, there are some structures in Tunisia that would encourage specific investors to materialize their intentions. The Tunisian embassy is a good point here. There is also the FIPA, Foreign Investment Promotion Agency. We would like to encourage you to contact us at the Chamber of Commerce. I will leave my business card with you. The Tunisian embassy could lead you to the FIPA, which is a Tunisian government organization, and with an investment plan, you could show them. They would help you find real estate, find resources, and really give you the leverage to come to Tunisia rather than go to other countries. They're salespeople. They're really good at what they do. So hopefully you'll be convinced. Thank you.
I'd like to add, if you were to choose today where to invest in one of these countries, like today, strategically I would go with the country that is ahead of the curve in terms of transition. We are really, as our central bank governor said, the worst is behind us. So why would you go to another country that is still struggling with the transition or an incomplete transition? So that's in terms of political stability and the future. having in mind that most countries will give you tons of incentives, that they will love to have Motorola, and so what makes a difference is, as you said, the small in size and good quality, and then political stability in the short term and the medium term for you.
One last question. That was the last question. Well, thank you all for your interest, and thank you for listening to us. And we are available should you want to reach out to us. We're here. Thank you again for your attention, and appreciate all the attention.